Today we got your SmackDown highlights, and I'm in a different room, and I don't really care for this very much. But let's go through all the results for SmackDown leading into Crown Jewel. The first thing to note is we had the Crown Jewel press conference, and yet AJ Styles out there, he announced that he is going to in fact retire. So we are going to have AJ go through 2026, they said, and that's when it's going to be over for AJ Styles. So I'm looking forward to the Cena Styles match. You also had Seth Rollins out there, and they were going to do a big segment with Paul Heyman and the Braun brothers, and Seth just kind of walked out. So that kind of leads into SmackDown, where you had Cody Rhodes kick off the show, and Cody does it's a very long Cody promo, guys, and it just was a whole lot of nothing. I felt like it was a little, I don't know, disjointed. I think it was just long. It was just not very intrigued with Cody just talking about how Seth thinks it's about the locker room and all of this, and there's always this doubt of Seth Rollins right now, and Cody's just like, you can't beat me. I hope the match is good, and I hope that we get something fun at the end of this Crown Jewel match. I would have maybe have wished that we had a confrontation or a beatdown moment between Cody and Seth, or Braun and Bronson. Why they didn't do any of that, I'm not sure, but it should lead to something interesting at the end of this match. The whole point, I think, here is that we have this doubt that Seth Rollins can pull it off, which makes me think that by the time we actually watch Crown Jewel, Seth is going to somehow win. Now, overall on SmackDown, I did kind of like the show. It was a little bit better than what we've seen in the past. Also, when Cody came out and he did his promo and he threw the microphone to Michael Cole, they had the main event tabletop there for the announce table, which was hilarious. They didn't switch it over to SmackDown. What was cool is that a little bit later, you had Jacob Fatu and Cody backstage, and they confronted each other. And Fatu basically says he wants the Cody title. So I think they're doing little things. There was reports the other day that WWE is hearing kind of the fan pushback right now for creative, and that we might see changes. It's rumors and speculation, so I kind of wait until I see it on my TV screen. But supposedly we are going to be seeing some maybe refreshes with creative. This is a great sign to me. Yes, tease Jacob and Cody, please do that, because I will 100% take that match. And then Drew attacks Fatu backstage. That later on they set up, we're going to get Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre next week on SmackDown. I really think they should have pushed to have this match at Crown Jewel, because right now I think we are only sitting at 5 matches. They might add that women's tag team match that we saw getting kind of teed up. They might add that for Crown Jewel. From the time I'm recording this, it hasn't been confirmed, but they might save it for the following week. So then we got Sami Zayn's open challenge. We get Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I didn't even know that Shinsuke was still with the company. He hasn't been on TV at all. Now, I did think that the match itself was a lot of fun. They put together a really good one. I was like, oh, this is not the same level as their NXT match, obviously, but still good match. And I wonder if they're actually going to use Nakamura in any capacity. This felt like a much more stripped down version of Shinsuke, but between him and Sami, the chemistry is there. It was hard hitting. I loved how this match went down. Then we get the big surprise at the end. We got the mother T's that are showing up there, and they are all decked out in the paint. Tama Tonga interrupts at the very end. He takes out Shinsuke Nakamura. Then all of the Tonga, Loas, Tongas, MFTs, they all get in the ring and they surround Sami Zayn. We get the beatdown on both Shinsuke and Sami. Tama Tonga makes a return. So now Solo and the MFTs group, it's way bigger. I thought the beatdown was great. It was surprising. And because they're wearing paint, now they're obviously just more deadly and more vicious. So that's all they needed. Just a little bit of paint there, and it just makes them a little bit more wild. I like this, and I like what we saw with the tag team match and the finish there, that Solo and the MFTs are going to play a bigger role on SmackDown, and they're not going to be confined, it seems like, to just one feud, one superstar. They're going to kind of be a threat throughout the show. I really like that. That segment, that ending there, it wasn't like the most groundbreaking thing in the world, but you know what? If we're watching SmackDown week after week where basically nothing happens, this was a show where I felt like they did a really good job to elevate. You had so many weeks of Solo just doing the pre-filmed promos that you finally have them show up, and they got a slight tweak in the character. They're going to be more vicious. They should just be in full-blown chaos mode all over SmackDown. They're going to take down everybody. That's what I want to see. And I did like it because they took down both Shinsuke and Sami. Shinsuke playing more of the heel role in the entire match. And I like that this version of the MFTs and Solo, they don't really care. So this totally worked for me. I'm excited to see what they're actually going to do with this. They had Drew and Nick Aldis backstage. They did confirm that next week you got Fatu versus Drew McIntyre one-on-one. Something needs to happen there. I don't know what you're going to do with Drew McIntyre after this Fatu match. Do you continue it? Do you have it go for multiple months? Are you going to roll Jacob Fatu up to the main title scene? Cody did allude to that if we rewind. He did talk about multiple people in his promo. He didn't mention Drew McIntyre, but he did mention a lot of different people that need opportunities and such. So I wonder if they are going to start as we get towards Survivor Series, make some legitimate changes. But SmackDown moved on, and yet Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton tagging together to go up against Kiana James and Julia. I did not care for this match, only because the entire build was nothing. It was 1 week of the contract signing before. It was fine. It was just nothing to really go home about. It was just to show that these two could get along. I wish that they built some tension here. The match ended with Stephanie doing a splash to the outside to Julia, and then you had Tiffany Stratton hit her moonsault on Kiana James, and that ended the match. But there was no tension. There was nothing between Stephanie and Tiffany that made me feel like, oh, they can't get along. They just go up to the ramp, stare at the belt, and hold their titles up. Didn't like this. I get it. You wanted to get these two showcased, but it would have been good if throughout the match you had frequent tags, you had something where there's more aggression. They just got along totally fine. And also, you're not helping the US title. Julia is your US champion, who you're presumably trying to build up with Kiana James by her side as her vocal and her mouthpiece. But you're going to keep having her lose. This would have been a spot, I think, for like Chelsea Green. I know Piper Niven is injured, but Secret Hervis might have been a better fit in here because they can eat the losses. Although maybe they didn't want to do that because Chelsea probably would get cheered in Australia and they didn't want to go down that route. You needed some definitive bad guys for Stephanie and Tiffany to go up against. So I get it. I just feel like, okay, Julia is just not being used like at all. Like this women's US title or division of whatever you want to call it really doesn't seem to be working or helping anybody. Now you had Sol Ruka and Zarya backstage, and they had a little moment there with Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, teasing that we are going to be getting this match. Kind of figure this is going to happen at Crown Jewel. They might later announce it. I hope to see it. I want to see Sol Ruka especially on main roster. WWE's been doing this a little bit more. Like Javon Evans has been showing up on SmackDown, but he's still firmly in NXT. You're having Zarya and Sol Ruka show up more on SmackDown. I just wish that they would just fully say that these people are now on the brand, that they're going to call them up. I don't like this wishy-washy stuff. So now you have Sol Ruka and Zarya going for those tag titles. Great. Probably a great match. I'd love to see if they just get called up permanently at some point. But those tag titles can float from brand to brand. So we're likely to see this match where Charlotte and Bliss will obviously retain. So Wyatt's and Street Profits tag team titles are on the line. Fine match, but the ending was the biggest thing here for me. It's where you had the Wyatts retain against the Profits. You had no feeling that the Street Profits were going to break up or there was any tension in there. So that was kind of a bummer. I think they could have done more on that front. But you did end up having Solo and the MFTs show up again. So I think that this is really well done. You're having them interact with not only Sammy Nakamura, but now in the tag division. And they are firmly going head to head with the Wyatts. If you can get Solo and his crew with those tag belts, you might freshen things up a little bit because now you have a bigger force that's more dominant than the Wyatts. I feel like the Wyatts are limited. Also, you didn't have Uncle Howdy there, don't know why, but then you had Nikki Cross going face to face with Solo, so that's kind of cool and fun. It's something fun and different, and that's what I like. This isn't just Solo coming out to do a 10-minute promo and rinse and repeat and interact with the same people. I like that they are trying to pivot them into multiple areas. So then you have more room to play with this stuff. I want there to be more of that threat and that looming threat of Solo and his crew. Now it feels like it's more dangerous. They get the tag titles. Maybe Solo eventually grabs the US title once again. You're showing more dominance with this crew. And I think it's something that's a lot of fun. Then you have your main event, and it just ended with the best thing I've seen in a long, long time from WWE. So you had Priest and Aleister Black in a last man standing match, but you might as well have called it a steel steps match because they use those steel steps a lot. I thought the match was hard hitting. I liked all the steel step spots. I liked that Black did a Meteora. I just think they hurt his knees more than he hurt Damian Priest. But you got kendo sticks. They went to the outside. The only thing, okay, last man standing matches, I don't know about you. For me, I don't love them at any point in wrestling. I just don't love, I like the idea of them. I really do. But I always kind of go with the last man standing match because I'm always just waiting for the ending. Like nothing matters. I know in a typical wrestling match, it's like, well, you got to tell the story, there's near falls, etc. But you're literally waiting for the 10. And so you just know, I'm like, this isn't it. This isn't the spot. This isn't the spot. Unless they can tell a really creative story in the ring. I'm waiting for the final moments. So with those final moments, they did go to the outside. They went near the fans. They got up on the boxes and everything. And I love this moment. You had Zelina Vega come out of all people to help out her husband. This is really cool that they are now going to have Zelina and Black going together. Maybe Zelina is going to be his manager, but they're at least going to be partnering up. So they're really leaning into this husband and wife stuff. Hey, maybe you can get CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Black and Vega. Also, shout out to Zelina Vega's outfit because just reasons. But then you had Black turn around, he's on his knees and he's begging to get hit. And then he does a fireball to Damian Priest, just like Hogan and Warrior in WCW, except for this time they were able to pull it off. So kudos to them for Black to be able to actually get the fire to actually happen. Great surprise ending. Black mask to Damian Priest, who goes through the boxes and the table on the outside, and Aleister Black picks up the victory. Totally pegged Damian Priest to win this thing, but I love that you now have the alliance of Zelina and Black together. Then you're going to maybe further the story with Priest, or you could write him off for a little bit. Here's the next step for me. With Aleister Black, now I feel like he's got a little momentum. He won. He beat Priest and he beat him with fire. That's awesome. Now can he go and get into the US title scene? Yeah, he's already mixed it up with Sammy for the US Open Challenge, but do you do more with him? Could you maybe at some point this year get him to have a one-on-one match with Cody where it's going to end in a schmazzy ending, but he's flirting with the main title? Black needs to now do something else. He's had these mid-card, low-level feuds, and this ending showed me that they're trying to do something new. You went with a creative ending, WWE. Good on ya. You had the bad guy win. Now it's how do you capitalize on it and how do you move forward with a little bit more momentum? And I think that Crown Jewel could prove to be a little bit more interesting now because you're kind of showing me that you're going to maybe try a few new things. This didn't just end in a regular, he fell through a table and that was the 10 count and you kind of go, okay, well, that was predictable, or Priest winning. I like they changed this up, and I love the addition of Zelina Vega. So what did you think of SmackDown? Did it work for you? What were your highlights and lowlights for the whole thing? You guys, if you want, hit subscribe button because it helps us grow, and click this video right here if you want to talk more WWE topics. Have a great day. See ya.